This is me, Verena K. An atheist. These are my parents, Noel and Susan. They're also atheists, and this is my older but shorter sister Megan, and she's also an atheist. My family is incredibly boring in terms of religious diversity, so we aren't going to be talking about us, but instead about the religious diversity in my town and in my high school. These are my friends from high school. About 70% of them were also atheist, agnostic, or nuns. About 15% were Protestant, 10% were Catholic, so 25% Christian, and the other 5% were something else, like Jewish, Muslim, or Mormon. And for the most part, we all got along, and if we didn't, it wasn't because of our religions. Religion wasn't really something that we openly discussed. It was something that we only talked about occasionally, on holidays, like Christmas, Yom Kippur, Hanukkah, and Ramadan. For the most part, nobody really asked any questions about anyone else's faith. We all just respected each other. This is my high school, Newport Harbor, and it was pretty much what you'd expect. We had a lot of Christian people, a lot of atheists, and a little bit of everything else. But during my senior year, we made international news for a religious-based controversy. A group of students at my school were at a party and they made a swastika out of red Solo cups and posted about it on their Snapchat stories. This sparked a huge controversy at my school. There were news vans around for weeks, but luckily, I feel like the rest of our community banded together really well. We had a bunch of assemblies about it. We actually openly talked about religion for once at my school, and it was really a productive and nice conversation, and it proved once again to me that people of all faiths could get along, regardless of their beliefs. So now that we've gotten that controversy out of the way, let's talk about the rest of the religion at my school. Now, most people were Christian, and in fact, right across the street from our high school, there was a big Presbyterian church called St. Andrew's, and I know a bunch of people who went there for services on the regular. But even people who weren't Christian were definitely a part of the church community, since it was right across the street. We all would go there and get coffee at the cafe inside. We had choir concerts in the main hall of the church underneath a giant cross. And on Wednesdays, they would serve hamburgers in the youth center, and a bunch of us would just go and hang out, play ping pong, and work on homework. It didn't even really feel like a church anymore. It was just a place that we went to go hang out. Now, when it comes to religion in my hometown, and Orange County as a whole, it was actually incredibly diverse. I mean, in terms of Christianity, in my hometown alone, we had tiny neighborhood churches like the Lighthouse Community Church that was on my block, and we also had mega churches like Calvary Chapel. Now, Orange County has absolutely everything. In researching for this video, I found a Latter-day Saints or Mormon temple, a goddess temple for women to reclaim their spiritual power, a bunch of synagogues, a Hindu monastery, Buddhist temples, mosques, 2 different Hare Krishna temples, and more spiritual yoga centers than I can count. Now, growing up, I never really realized that my area was so diverse religiously, but I think that's because I was caught up with my own religious questions, like, is God and creation real? I never really stopped to ask any questions about any religions besides Christianity, and I think that is in part due to the area that I grew up in. Orange County is a pretty conservative place in California, and it definitely shelters you from the real world. I grew up being bisexual, and it took me a super long time to come out, because I didn't know anybody else that was bi, or even gay really, until I was 16. After I came out, I realized that there are a lot of gay people in Orange County, but you just don't really realize it growing up. I feel really lucky that everybody my age has been super accepting of me, but I know that the older generation definitely doesn't feel the same way, and I think that's the same way with religions. you don't really realize that there's a lot else out there unless you start looking. But if you just grow up the way that you're told to, you're gonna be straight and you're gonna be Christian, and that's just the way it is. Even though there was a lot of diversity around me, I didn't really realize it until I went looking. I'm really glad that I'm now so much more aware of the religious diversity that I grew up in, and hopefully now I can look for it